But yeah, so yeah, you can divide jobs up. And also, like, in terms of being ready, like, it doesn't mean spend money. Like, you don't have to spend loads of money. And, you know, there are all sorts of companies will sit and tell you that their drink is better and their protein is better and this and that and all the rest of it. But the basics are the basics. At the end of the day, if you have some food. So, you know, if you don't want to go out to the shop the night before and buy all sorts of different stuff, some things you may, you know, don't even know if you may or may not use, you know, you can make a basic isotonic sports drink by using water, squash, a pinch of salt, and a pinch of sugar. You don't need to buy Lucozade. Like, there's probably plenty of recipes online. You could just make your own sandwiches, like basic things, you know, yes, like a Rice Krispies cake or even like, you know, a purpose-made protein bar or carbohydrate bar is very good, but they're generally like £3 sometimes for a bar, whereas like just make some honey sandwiches, some honey and butter in a sandwich, and like, you know, some bread and some sugar. That's basic kind of like refueling, bananas, fruit, things like that. So it's not necessarily even about spending money. It's just that thought process. Like, I like to just kind of almost catch myself out, you know, almost like you said, sometimes make them sound a bit silly, but, oh, you've turned a regatta and you don't have your all-in-one, what are you going to do? You know, or you don't have this, or you forgot this. Like, okay, like, just go through those options, break them down, fix them before you get to them. So like, create the problems in your head, solve them, and therefore when they appear in real life, you've already dealt with this.
Plus, then if somebody else has got that kind of a problem in your crew, or maybe somebody that you know at the regatta, well, then you've already thought of a solution. So again, you're ahead of the game. Yeah, it's great.
You know you're going to be nervous, and nerves aren't a bad thing, and we'll touch on that in a bit. But just taking away all that other stuff, you know, yeah, like you said, the no talent stuff, you know, make sure that the things that don't require talent are done so that you can go out and show how much talent you have.
So what kind of foods would you avoid when coming to sort of prepare your lunch or your snack assortment for the race day?
I think it's something that you learn over time, like what sits well with you and not. It depends how nervous you get kind of in your stomach. I know some guys who feel a lot more sick or have a more of a sickening feeling when they get nervous. For me personally, I didn't tend to, occasionally, but for the most part, it wasn't like a stomach feeling for me. So that's something you're going to get used to and you're going to learn over time. But obviously the big one is to not eat meat before, you know, I think they say an hour, but generally we would say like 3 hours. Like, if you've got a race coming up in the next 3 hours, don't eat a bunch of chicken. That's going to sit in your stomach for a long time. Like, I'm not a nutritionist, but like, these are sort of some of the basics. And in general, just have lots of options, some complex carbs and some basic carbs. So I don't know, like a pasta salad. Again, you can make a homemade pasta salad or just some sandwiches. You can have a more substantial food to eat if you've got big gaps or, you know, for after you finish racing. But generally, I've found, like, especially if you're racing more than one time in a day, just small little things to eat, like cereal bars, just, you know, a couple spoonfuls of a pasta salad with some, I think it could be anything, mixed beans, whatever you like. Generally, don't try and change massively the food that you're eating, but give yourselves a lot of different options, because you'll find, like, when you start to get really tired, when you get with the nerves, you know, towards the end of the day, you might have raced 2 or 3 or 4 times already. You want to make sure that you look in that food bag of yours and there's something that you feel like you want to eat. Like, you know, if you're like, I know I need to eat something, I'm not super hungry, but I can feel that I'm getting tired. Oh, I don't really want to eat any more pasta. Like, make sure there's just a few options there, I would say. And probably the same for drinks. Have some plain water, have some squash, have something fizzy. Again, probably not close to race time, but there's a lot of people that mess with caffeine and have a, if you're going to have a can of Red Bull or other drinks are available. You know,
time them well.
Again, a little one for that would be the guys that usually drank an energy drink would have an empty plastic bottle, and then you would decant the energy drink into the plastic bottle, shake it up, fizz it out, shake it up, fizz it out, get all the fizz out, and then if that's something you want to drink like an hour before you race or 40 minutes, you know, just before you boat for warm up, then it's flat. So, like I said, like all those little things, just having options, and just make sure you're probably going to feel different throughout the day. You're probably going to eat different stuff. If you've got a long layover, you'd be more like having like an actual meal. If you know you've got a quick turnaround, just small little bits and pieces. The last thing you want to feel in the warm up or at the start is full, but also empty. For me, sucks. So it's like that mid ground. Like I don't want to be sit there and being like, oh no, like I'm really hungry now. That probably wouldn't have a massive impact on performance, but just mentally it's taken me away from what I'm supposed to do. But yeah, you definitely want to find that nice mid ground. You don't want to be full. That's literally going to take away from your performance. Blood's going to be stuck in your stomach digesting, not going to have as much oxygen going out to your limbs, which you're obviously planning on using quite extensively. So yeah, I think like with anything, a bit of a balance, but yeah.
So yeah, I would just err on the side of caution, and in my personal experience, I would prefer to like underdo food than overdo it, because if you underdo it, cool, you can refuel more after your race.
You mean eat a bit less?
Eat a bit less.
Yeah, not necessarily bring less. When you say underdo.
Sorry, yeah. I meant eat a little bit less, because you can always refuel after a hard race. It's going to take 6 to 8 minutes, depending on conditions. But if you're in that middle K, you're going through the third 500, and you've got that thing that just sits on your stomach and is weighing you down. You can't be 100% in the boat at that point. You're not giving your all to the race, because you just can't focus fully on it. So definitely just see what works for you, and don't make too many drastic changes, because that is a recipe for disaster. Just stick to what you know. And for example, if you're the type of person that prefers to have like, I don't know, flapjack bars over some fresh fruit, bring those. But if you're like, well, I actually prefer to have an apple or like a bit of mango or watermelon, just do that. There's not a specific rule that outlines whether one thing is going to work better for you than the other than what you actually think is going to help. Because that's probably going to have the biggest effect. If you feel happy and comfortable having eaten or brought what you've prepared, that's probably going to give you the biggest boost over something that maybe what some guru somewhere is going to suggest.
Yeah, it's just about taking the worry out of it. And like the more specific you get about it, the more you might end up worrying about what you have or haven't got, or whether you've eaten it. I mean, a lot of people talk about this like half-hour window post-exercise. I think as far as I understand the science around it, is probably that's not as important as people thought. But if you're looking to sort of elevate your recovery to the next level, the thing that we were told to do and started doing as we get towards the top end of national or with international racing, was to have your recovery drinks and food like at the landing stage. So especially say if you're rowing, say something like Dorney Lake, and you might be 10-15 minutes walk, by the time you've got your shoes and your blaze and your boat and got it off and walked it over, if you've got tight gaps between races, then having a little plastic bag with a 500ml bottle of some protein shake or a mix or whatever you like drinking, and an energy bar or a banana, then we would take all that down. We would leave it down on the side with the shoes. You come off the water quickly. Cox would go and grab those bags, distribute them. People can quickly have a drink of something and something to eat, and that way you don't have to carry that weight in the boat. Because again, like you said, like kind of starting to take it into that next level. Another common practice before you start the race would be to empty your water bottles. So, if you think everyone, if it's an 8 and everyone's got a half liter of water, that's 4 extra kilos. If you've got a liter, that's 8 extra kilos. It's small margins, but just little things. And again, a lot of that sometimes is just mentally about making you feel more prepared. But obviously, in a sport where you carry your own weight is important. So you might have emptied all your water bottles off. You're going to finish the race. You're going to be exhausted. You've got that thing right there. But again, I agree with you. It's not essential. I think the most essential thing is just keeping yourself sort of comfortable, energized, fed, but not overdone, and just allow you to focus on racing.
And those are only the kind of things you're going to realize once you've got a few races under your bag, because that comes from preparation, like you said, from creating those problems in your head and then trying to solve them. So